I just want to give a little overview of the year in review of the Michigan Climate Action Network. And, it's so interesting and thinking and taking stock of the last year that this team has been engaged in this work. MyCan was founded in 2015. Indeed, on the bus to the 2014 People's Climate March was the idea for the Michigan Climate Action Network, and was founded in 2015, 8 years ago, by my predecessor, Kate Madigan, and folks like Tom Porter and Jim Lively and other climate activists in the state. And really, our reason for existence is because before Michigan Climate Action Network, very few people, policymakers, or organizations were talking about the climate crisis. And MyCan is the first organization to prioritize climate in the state. And over those 8 years, we've built an incredibly large and powerful network that takes thousands of actions each year. And this past year and a half has been full of a lot of essential changes for MyCan to meet this climate moment in Michigan, including the new staff that you just met, our new 5-year strategic plan that we finished last fall. Indeed, so many of you turned out last November, to hear our strategic plan. And I got so many questions about that, and folks said, but no, what are you going to really do? And I feel like a year later, we're actually implementing this plan in just so many key ways. And MyCan's role is to amplify, to be the megaphone. That is what we see as our core role, to support the connecting and convening all of the climate leaders across the state. And our impact is really to be able to have that megaphone and that supporting role transition to the most stringent targets that we could ever imagine for meeting the My Healthy Climate Plan. That's our overall impact. And these significant transitions have really put us on an incredible forward-thinking path with much of your help and support along the way to really achieve these bold and equitable climate solutions. And out of that same strategic plan, our vision. We updated our vision as well to really be forward thinking. And our vision, to me, is our theory of change, right? Why MyCan exists is to amplify and bring folks together. And we often used to talk about following the science. And as a former political scientist, that means we're also following the social science. Our goal is to build a movement that increases that public support, that makes it durable, makes it coordinated, and makes it a social norm. Climate action should just be the right thing to do. And our change and how we achieve that is to really mobilize this diverse mass movement. We start with the folks who are already galvanized to take climate action, like many of you. And beyond that, we see a need for a critical voices of those who have been marginalized and most impacted. Our goals there and our vision, you'll see, to meet and exceed those critical targets, but to make sure that your zip code no longer determines your climate outcomes. That's the vision that we have for our fine state and for all of you out there in this coordinated network. The megaphone is really the first strategy that we work on. How do we be the megaphone? From our strategic plan, it says that this comms team is going to develop a cutting-edge communications hub that spotlights the climate leaders, organizations, and communities advocating for equitable climate solutions. And I think we do this in a number of ways, even in just the short year or so since the strategic plan. Many of you were familiar with our 2022 report on Michigan communities leading the climate crisis. And so this year we followed up with that with a report on the 15 public institutions of higher education in Michigan, and did the Michigan universities leading on climate change. I'll let my colleagues here talk about a couple of their initiatives.
Sure, I can take it away with an initiative that we started at the beginning of this year in January, the Michigan Climate Communications Network. I see a few of our friends on here, so shout out to our MCCN folks. This was something that we started to be just an open monthly convening of comms and other related staff from as many environmental orgs as we could bring in across the state. And it's really turned into a really tight-knit group of comms personnel where we can go to each other and just seek advice, crowdsource commiseration in some cases, and just call on each other for when our campaigns need a little extra collective promotion. It's probably grown to a group of about 25 plus now, and we're still piloting new ways to interact and keep connected with each other. And eventually we envision the MCCN as being sort of an editorial board for the local climate narrative in Michigan.
And then I can talk about one of our recent projects, Connecting Michigan, Sharing Our Climate Stories next, which to me, I really classify as some of what we call cultural work, which is, bring about as a part of our vision, a durable cultural transformation to help support that just and equitable transition to a resilient future. So we started this at the summit, which you can see in that picture in the bottom left. We have these huge, beautiful banners representing mycelium and roots and kind of interconnectedness. And we asked a couple of questions, things like, what motivates you to work for the climate? Or what have we lost that makes you grieve? Some of those things kind of tap into the big emotions that can be felt while living through this climate crisis. So that was a great experience. And we decided to do a digital submission version of it for those that weren't able to join us in person. So we just closed that recently, and we got a little bit over 300 responses on that, which is incredible. So now we're finishing up the work, which ended up being a lot of work, of transcribing all of those digital responses physically onto that banner. Or, I mean, there's probably 10 or 12 banners in total that all interconnect with each other. And once we're done with that, it will get archived at the Royal Oak Historical Society, which will then really be able to, honor and just put a pin in what the sentiments of the Michigan climate movement was like in 2023. So it's a really exciting project that we're kind of wrapping up from this year too.
Thanks for that. Really grateful to some of our Climate Summit planning team. We have an artistic director now, Colleen Ludwig from Oakland University, who really spearheaded that project, and from Sierra Club, Andrew Sopolis, who really made a lot of the art at the summit happen. And of course, you're all here for the Climate Champion Awards, which is our big megaphone that we love to blast out the work that we are all doing. So this megaphone is used for our action campaigns, is really where we try to put up a lot of our energy. Again, our network is taking thousands of actions each year. We tallied them up to over 2,000 unique actions that were taken in the last year over the course of several campaigns. Of course, the big one being this past fall, our Michigan Clean Energy Future. Again, leaning into our mission of trying to show the public support that is out there for the Clean Energy Future Plan and for our environmental justice priorities is really where we wanted to go with a very public campaign of sign-on of support for those pieces. And we really try to make sure that these campaigns are easy for you to use and you can borrow from them and adapt them to your own pieces as well. And along those bills, we really did, I think, a nice job in turning out some folks for the day of action. But in our view, really maybe was not quite enough. And so the bills that we passed this last fall that I know all of you have been paying a lot of attention to, again, when MyCan was founded in 2015, we were the first and until recently the only organization to prioritize climate action. And we began that journey in 2015 with the audacious goal then of carbon neutrality by 2050. And today, right, 8 years later, we see those goals partially realized with 100% clean energy by 2040. And we really have to give credit to everyone who worked on this campaign, to the legislators and the governor who did end up passing the pieces that we're really proud that we worked on, which include the increase of renewable energy portfolio standard up to 60% by 2035, the increase in the Michigan Public Service Commission's oversight capacity, and raising that distributed generation cap. As you see in our communications though, right, we don't think we showed enough of that public support to really keep and combat the entrenched fossil fuel interests that are keeping things like natural gas and carbon sequestration in that definition of clean energy. And we remain committed to driving forward the bounds of what is possible. I'll tell you, in the 8 years since MyCan was founded, the thing I think has changed the most is not those science targets, right? They've stayed relatively the same, but it's the commitment and recognition for the need to center justice in this movement. And that is what we are fully committed to. And I think our audience and you out there expect us to lead on the bold and equitable things. That's why we were founded. And that's what we want to continue to do in the future and in 2024. There's a couple other cool things coming in 2024 that I'm going to hand it back over to my fine colleagues.
Yeah, so one project that we are really in the middle of the beginning of it truly right now has been I guess the beginning of the public side of it. Of course, we've been working on it for quite a while, but that is bringing back what was called the digital cohort that MyCAN ran in 2021. Now its full name is Youth Climate Influencers Digital Cohort, or just Climate Influencers for short. But this is a 12-week program for youth to gain experience and mentorship for climate communications, both through our staff, our comm staff, and also hopefully we'll be connecting them with that Michigan Climate Communications Network that Colleen mentioned earlier. And thanks to some funding that we recently got from Midwest Building Decarb, we are able to give each of our participants a $1,500 stipend for their participation in this program, which is why it took us a little bit of time to do this again, because we wanted to make sure that the participants could be paid this time around. So we're doing 2 cohorts in 2024. Each will have 3 participants. The first one will start the second week of January, so we're really gearing up for that one now. And that will run till the end of March. And then we're going to do a second cohort from about mid-May to mid-August. So please be on the lookout to see the content that will start coming out from this first cohort. And of course, if this sounds like something that you would want to do, or you know someone that would be really interested in this, then in a couple of months, we'll of course start promoting invitations to collaborate on this project for the second cohort coming up later on.
All right, and I'll take some time just to give you some action opportunities. This is one of MyCAN's only campaigns running right now. So I'm really excited just to get people involved, but sometimes it's kind of hard to know what to do. So just as a reminder, being here today is big points to you all, right? Like just showing up and making sure you're staying informed and connected is a huge part of why MyCAN exists, and you are a huge part of why MyCAN exists. But other things that you can do will be to educate yourself. And we've got a great page on our website that you can visit just to get a little bit more information about what's happened in the past with Line 5, and then also what's staying current as well. You can become a volunteer, and I actually have a form that you can fill out if you would like to get in contact with me personally about becoming a volunteer. The more the merrier. It can be little things like showing up to webinars. It can be things like writing a letter to your president to urge him to shut down Line 5. And it can also be to contact your representatives, right? So I will be having a letter writing party this week. Again, if you want to become a volunteer and get involved in those things, please feel free to contact me. I would love to hear from you individually about how we can all better amplify this campaign. Sharing on social media is huge, just spreading the word. If you don't know this, every single time you share a link from a website that you visit, we tally those up. And then when we look for volunteers, those are the names that really stick out, or the ones that are continuing to stay engaged. So make sure that you're sharing things, even if it seems little. It does do a huge, huge part. And then just because I personally also work with Oil and Water Don't Mix, please make sure to visit oilandwaterdon'tmix.org. They have the most up-to-date information on Line 5 constantly, and they're probably one of the bigger names amplifying this fight. So thanks all for being here today. Again, it is way bigger than you might think.
Nice job. Yeah, as we roll down the year here, got one big action. Please join Erica in that essential work around Line 5. So that second prong of our mission and vision is to build on the megaphone. We need to build and mobilize a justice-centered climate movement. And this is our role as convener, as connector of both grassroots and grass tops, all toward building that justice-centered climate movement. Our strategic plan indeed says that we're going to radically expand MyCan's reach and recognition, that we're going to help connect all of you with the tools and organizations that help invoke action, that we're going to orient our membership program with organizations towards more active partnerships that build power for the climate movement overall, and that we're going to try to do and host joint engagement opportunities. And this is a few of the ways that we've been really accomplishing the second prong of our mission to do that. The Community Voices series that so many of you have been speakers in, and we're really trying to go around the state and showcase those local leaders. In that piece, we've held 6 of those in the last year, as well as 5 different members meetings like this, convening over 500 different members throughout the year in these different ways. Of course, most of you know us for the Michigan Climate Summit, which was founded by MyCan, and we hosted our 4th annual at Oakland University last year, where we really tried to build in this new model of culture, justice, the arts, along with the legislative and the science, the People's Summit, as I like to call the last year's piece. And of course, the Day of Action that convened another 500 folks. We see a lot of different ways for us to continue to play this role in supporting all of you out there. And I think the biggest one is our steering committee. And I just have to give a shout out to the graphics team that creates these slides. I see lots of requests for the slides. This is mostly Sarita. Thank you for this beautiful work. We have an inaugural steering committee this last year. We've had 2 meetings. We meet quarterly. And the initiative here is really at the top of the slide to establish an operating model which promotes collaboration and connection and really builds on shared investments of time. And so this grassroots steering committee is composed of the local climate leaders from across the state. I told you about the 2022 report that MyCan published about communities leading. I found about 17 communities out there really already had groups and were taking bold action in their towns. And so what we did was build on those leaders to create this steering committee that will provide input to MyCan, but also tells MyCan what we need to do. Michelle was there. Yes, she was. I see so many of you on this call that are in the inaugural steering committee. I mean, this is from Lansing to Marquette County to Grand Rapids to Traverse City, Kalamazoo, Highland Park, Van Buren, White Lake. We're really trying to go around the state and make sure that we're sharing our work and that we're hearing from the folks who are most involved at the local level. This ties into our theory of change because we really believe that these local leaders can influence their local communities and the power and the structure of local elected officials. That's really where we want to be able to go with this wonderful group of folks. We just had a November meeting where we aligned some campaign goals for 2024. So watch out, world. The steering committee is coming for some action. As we built the steering committee, we also needed to devise some other structures for Michigan Climate Action Network. And so we now have also a new inaugural board of directors. So my goodness, I knew this talk was going to make me tired. We've done a lot this last year to get our structures and pieces in place so that we can deliver that really high quality work for you. And a lot of our original steering committee is now the officers of our board, again, some of the founders of MyCan, so that we carry through that historical institutional knowledge. And we are still seeking some more diverse participants. We really want the board to also be representative of the geography across the state, of different sectors that are impacted and can impact the climate crisis. So make sure that you get some names in there if you are willing to come serve at an even higher level. I see some board members getting some love in the chat there. We love our board. They've already been just so incredibly helpful. But I'm going to let Colleen steal the show next with a big headline for us for 2023.
Sure. Thank you, Denise. Yeah, as you can see, we have gone from 79 to 130 members. So that's what, like a 51% increase from where we started at the beginning of this year. Many of these membership connections that we made did come through our summit back in June. So it seemed like our theme of Climate SOS, which stood for sharing our stories, really resonated with a lot of our grassroots groups and just a lot of us in general. And we were so grateful for all of you who backed that theme with sponsorship that we decided you might as well all be MyCan members. And so that's where a lot of these new faces came from. And we're just, yeah, really grateful that you're still here with us and you stuck around and you'll be able to guide us for future events and campaigns. And I'll pass it over to Erica, who also did a ton of legwork and recruiting some members this year.
Yeah, maybe not so much recruitment as much as organization. And honestly, I enjoyed it looking at every single one of your websites and really kind of digging into each one of like your, I guess, your messages. It's really exciting to see who was a part of our member groups. And it just it speaks for itself. You know, each one of you have very clear goals, and we just love being a part of each one of those goals and amplifying them. So thank you all for being a part of this.
It's just so incredible. When I came in again, that number had been holding at 79, I think, for a while, and really just thinking about who we worked with on a daily basis, who was already sponsoring the summit, and who we were already doing partners with. Just adding you all into the fold has gotten us up to 130 member groups. And as you well know, there's many, many more out there. So please help us continue to increase all the membership so that we want to build this movement and the power for everyone. And we don't do this work alone either, right? Even though we want to provide so much to all of you as members, we rely on many coalition partners as well, from our environmental justice community, from the MAGIC and MEJC. As you heard from Erica, we're in partnership with Oil and Water Don't Mix Coalition. The fall legislative campaign was really spearheaded by Michigan Energy, Michigan Jobs. I see lots of shout outs to Marnice and Jacob there in the chat, who run Midwest Building Decarb and are funding our climate influencers. One that I didn't talk a lot about today is our education prong with the Michigan Alliance for Environmental and Outdoor Educators. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention our membership, and our fiscal sponsor is currently the Michigan Environmental Council. So we get to work with lots of amazing, fine folks. And I think I just want to end the kind of MyCan piece here with some of the fun pictures from the last year of our engagement. We really try to get around the state as much as possible, going to your events, holding our own meetings and the summit and events, but we'll come to your event, right? I think we counted, I gave like 12 public talks last year, and there are even more on the schedule already for 2024. But please invite us. We will come and we will share some messaging with you and your team wherever you are.